This story comes to us from CBSNews.com. Out of Chicago, going back to Chicago again. Chicago has done it again. But a key city council committee has recommended an $8.75 million settlement with the family of a domestic violence victim who was shot and killed by police after he called for help in 2021. That's right. He called for help. The police come. He ends up shot. How does that work? CBS 2 investigator Megan Hickey sat down exclusively with the victim's family last year when they filed their lawsuit. Now, an alderman seemed genuinely stunned by the details of this case when it was presented in front of the Finance Committee for a vote on the settlement, which will go before the full council coming up. Michael Craig called for help on October 4th, 2021, saying his wife was threatening him with a knife. Said, "My wife's got a knife on me on the bed right now, on my throat." So city attorneys confirmed that police responding to the call knew that the report was for a woman threatening a man with a knife, but they ended up shooting Craig. An incredulous Alderman Jeanette Taylor asked, "So they knew the situation and went in shooting. Is that why we're paying $8 million? Yeah, that's why the city, the taxpayers, are paying the $8 million, not the cops who were involved. The $8.75 million settlement backed by the Finance Committee stems from a federal lawsuit claiming that Chicago police officer Alberto Covarrubias, say that 3 times, she sells on his seashore. I'll say it again. The $8.75 million settlement backed by the Finance Committee stems from the federal lawsuit claiming that Chicago police officer Alberto Covarrubias and his partner were informed at least 4 different times that Craig was the victim of domestic violence when they entered his home. Craig's son, Patrick Jenkins, said he called 911 himself because he was the victim. So, according to statements that have been made, Craig told police his wife was experiencing mental health problems and trying to stab him. But when Officer Covarrubias entered the apartment, both taser and gun drawn, body camera shows the officer shot Craig twice rather than trying to subdue his wife, who was the attacker. The city's law department said officers mistook Craig, the victim, as the aggressor, despite the 911 calls and Craig's 8-year-old son also telling police as they arrived at the building his mommy had a knife. Now, the family's attorney, Michael Oppenheimer, said he was the victim, and Officer Covarrubias shot him not once, but twice as he was laying down on the ground as he was recovering from the first gunshot. So obviously the cop was like, "He's still moving. He moving now?" Alderman Daniel Laspata said he was deeply angry about this case, as city attorneys confirmed the second shot was fired while Craig was on the ground. Welcome to the welcome to the world of police work. I was going to say welcome to law enforcement, but welcome to the world of police work. Jenkins said in his opinion, police did everything wrong. Yeah, they shot the victim of the domestic violence who called 911 for help. And then when he was on the ground after one shot, they shot him again. He's still moving. Now, none of the Finance Committee members objected to the $8.75 million settlement. Their recommendation will be passed on to the full council. We'll see if the city council approves it. Alderman Derek Curtis said, "This is a no-brainer for me. I think it's in our obvious interests to settle this case." Obvious interests, what does that mean? If they don't settle, what does it mean? Could be a riot, maybe. Oppenheimer said more than 2 years, because it has been, after Craig's death, his family is still waiting for the full report from the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. I have not heard good things about COPA. I really haven't. They'd like to see the officer fired and considered for criminal charges. You mean he hasn't yet? He's still a cop and he hasn't been charged? What's going on in Chicago? Oppenheimer said, hopefully the city learns from this and trains its officers better. Cops ain't gonna be them cops that you could train them until you're blue in the face. They don't care. They're not paying the settlement. They're getting paid to be cops still. What do they care? Oops. 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 Hey, city, you gotta pay. Oops.